Good morning, Crestwood. Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you all are doing well, surviving this heat. Man, oh man, it is bad out there. Certainly makes me mindful of those who don't have access to adequate air conditioning or shelter or water. Let's pray for them, and let's think of ways maybe we can help them through the ways we support the charities and nonprofits in our community, especially on weeks like this. Let's be mindful of the struggles of our brothers and sisters and how we can be a part of helping them. Honored to bring you this devotional for this Wednesday, August 23rd. I want to read to you this passage from Romans 13, so just listen to what this says. It says, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves." Let that sit there for a second. I hope that made you as uncomfortable as it made me, because there have been ample reasons in our country to not be subject to the governing authorities, to be critical of the governing authorities, to actively rebel against some of the things that the governing authorities do. And so I've really been wrestling with this idea of what does it mean to be a Christian in America today. This came up at our General Assembly a few weeks ago when a resolution was brought asking the General Assembly to actively oppose Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism, the idea that marries the sort of the patriotism of our country with this idea that we should be basing everything we do on Christian values. It's sort of a hyper-patriotism. And sometimes, as we know, it can go in what some people consider to be destructive and even anti-gospel directions. But Christian nationalism is not a monolithic thing. There are different ways to define that, to understand that. And so I wanted to read more about that. So got a recommendation for a book called American Idolatry. It's brand new, out by a professor from Indiana. And it wrestles with this question of what does it mean to be a Christian, and in the midst of our country's climate today, and especially in the midst of a rise in Christian nationalism. And the book, in the very preface, I haven't even gotten to chapter 1, asks questions like, can I be an American and still criticize my country based on Christian values and understanding? It asks questions like, can I love my country and be a Christian? It wrestles with this idea of being a citizen of America and being a follower of Jesus Christ. And what do we do when we, as believers, feel those things are in conflict? Not an easy topic, right? But these are the kind of things that we as Christians, I think, should be wrestling with. I think if we have an uncritical view of that, if we're not consistently asking those questions about our government, regardless of who's in power, then we aren't doing our job as Christians. We're not taking responsibility to make sure that we are being loyal to God first, over and above anything else, including our country. So in thinking about this, I'm thinking the church should be the place where we can talk about these things in civil, respectful kinds of ways. Because you can't really have these conversations outside of the church, because it tends to devolve into partisan conversations, and it seems like it becomes more of a debate or an argument than a conversation. And I want the church to be a place where we can talk about what does it mean to be a Christian in America today? How are we supposed to deal with social policies, with policies that affect our country, when we might be at different places in our understanding of immigration or abortion or LGBTQ rights, those sorts of things? What does it mean? And so one of the things I want to do is I want to see who out there is interested in being a part of a discussion about this book. I think this book is going to be incredibly provocative and insightful in raising those kind of questions. So what I'd like to do is, if you would like to join me in a book discussion about American idolatry, hit me up, let me know. Send me a text, send me an email. I'll add your name to a list, and then we'll find a time where we can gather, having read a chapter or so, and talk about this. This isn't something that there's a deadline we have to get through. I really want this to be a discussion that lets us to get into the substance of the issue, that makes us all feel uncomfortable and disagree, but that models as Christians what it means to talk about the things that matter to us and to our faith and to our country. Because Jesus was political, And so everything that we wrestle with has a political dimension to it, but also has a spiritual dimension to it. And how do we bring together the political and the spiritual dimensions of the things that affect our lives? So if you would like to be a part of that book discussion, let me know. I would love to have you join me as we just talk this out. I'm not looking for answers necessarily. I'm looking for people who are willing to ask the questions with me and then willing to take steps towards what an answer might be, what a direction might be. I think it's going to be fascinating. But I hope that you're wrestling with this. I hope what I read to you from Romans makes you feel uncomfortable, because it should. I think that's the nature of living in our country today and living in our country in the last, few decades and even further back than that with all that's gone on. So, Crestwood, today I want you to leave this devotional feeling uncomfortable. And then I want you to decide, what are you going to do to address these questions? What are you going to do to make sure you're prioritizing your faith over and above any other challenges that you face? Not easy to do, but here's the thing I want you to remember. You're not alone in doing it. You've got my love and support and the love and support of your church family as well. God bless you, Crestwood.